Let's talk about war. We've been talking about love all evening. Let's talk about what matters. We are in the book of Deuteronomy, and the book of Deuteronomy is really a recap of the 3 books that preceded. The whole story of Moses, the Exodus, and the Israelites that are now at the edge of the promised land, ready to move in, but they can't quite move in because Moses is still there. And Moses can't enter the promised land. He's been banned from entering for reasons that we don't have time to go into tonight. But Joshua has been anointed as the one who will guide the Israelites to take and conquer the land of Canaan, according to the story. And that happens after the book of Deuteronomy. But the book of Deuteronomy is God has sentenced Moses to die as soon as he's done retelling the story. So Moses takes his time. Takes a whole book. And he gets into, before you go to war, as you are about to enter into the promised land, and they've already been at war with different nations that have been an obstacle on their journey. There's one of the passages in this week's Torah portion that talks about the rules of war. And I won't give you the whole several turning of the scroll, but I highlighted and I wrote here, I typed here, just a short passage that I found actually to be quite poignant, quite fascinating. Understanding that this comes from a consciousness that is 3,000 years old. So the setup is that the troops are getting ready for battle. There's like the final hours before engaging in battle with whatever enemy or city or whatever is in front of them. And so the troops are poised to march toward the enemy forces. In that moment, the Torah says, the officers, and I read now from the Torah, the officers shall address the troops as follows. Quote, is there anyone amongst you, is there anyone who has built a new house and has not dedicated it yet? Let him go back to his home, lest he dies in battle and another person dedicate his house for him. Is there anyone here who has planted a vineyard but has never harvested his vineyard? Let him go back to his home, lest he dies in battle and another harvest his field for him. Is there anyone here who has paid the bride price for a wife, but who has not yet taken her into his household? Let him go back to his home, lest he dies in battle, and another take her into his household as his wife. The officers shall go on addressing the troops and say, is there anyone here afraid and disheartened? Is there anyone here afraid and disheartened? Let him go back to his home, lest the courage of his comrades flag like his. And when the officers have finished addressing the troops, army commanders shall assume command of the troops. I found that absolutely fascinating. That there is really built into the Torah already rules laid out for the possibility of having conscientious objectors. That is legally embedded in the Torah already. It's already there. And just like if you are such a person here in America, you have to come and show proof of what you're claiming, obviously. But just as in American law, Thousands of years ago, the Torah itself had set up this process that there were outs for people who didn't want to go into battle, into war, including those who were scared. If you're too scared, go home. I know that most of us have heard about the Torah with this vengeful, wrathful God and the almighty smiter and all of that. And the Bible of the Jews is all don't do this and don't do that. But I find so many passages in Torah that speak beautifully of love and compassion and understanding of human nature, of human traits. And this is one of these passages. There is so much acceptance in this. There's so much care for each other in this case. Because I understand that when, let's say, the Israelites went to war, it was a whole nation that went to war. To this day, we're a very small number of people. I mean, to this day, the Israeli army has everybody serves. Everybody serves. There is obviously conscientious objectors. There are people who are physically unable. But other than that, everybody serves. Girls, boys, doesn't matter. Everybody's part of it. Why? Because there's so many of us, and there is borders to defend. What also strikes me in this passage is like the sense in the officers, the army officers, as they were asking these questions to all of their troops, right? The sense that there is something more important than war. And what is more important than war? Life, right? Life is more important than war. So if if you're in the middle of building your house, we need you to go build your house for the people, for all of us. If you're in the middle of toiling the soil, it takes years for any soil, any land to become fertile. You don't just start on Tuesday and then by Friday you have flowers or fruit or vegetables, right? It takes years for the land to start yielding its produce. So if you just started, right, you need to be there and tend to your field. It takes work and dedication. So bring food to our people. Go home, tend your field, absolutely. Marriage, you're engaged to a woman. Go and be her husband. Don't die here. That doesn't serve anybody. The Torah says, be fruitful and multiply. Go home. You have work to do. Enjoy. It's the sense of when war is an act of destruction, what takes precedent is this act of creation. The acts of creation takes precedent to the acts of destruction. And I think it's wonderful. So I'm going to speak to this. I'm already started at 3 different levels. This, the one I'm talking about right now, which is the very concrete level, right? And then I'm going to move, if you allow me, to more of the religious aspect of that. And then ultimately, as I love to do, we'll get into the spiritual stuff, just from this passage. What I want to bring into the concrete aspect of the story is that I was struck by this ability that people could actually go home. When you think about thousands of years ago, that there was no sense of individual. Like the sense of being individuals, that's a couple hundred years, 300 years, that we've come to think of ourselves as individuals. Before modernity, really, our sense was a sense of community. We belonged to a community, a religious community, a guild, right? We belonged to a village. Right? Our sense of identity was wrapped in the community to which we were a part. Thousands of years ago, the consciousness was clannish. We belong to the clan, to the family. And it's a little bit like, I always think about it like mafia movies, This is family. You don't betray the family, right? That's the mentality of biblical times. It's the family, so we go to war together. We're going to go to the mattresses together. That's from Godfather. So it's stunning that in this consciousness of we're all in this together as the clan, there were people who were allowed to go home, right? Because there is a sense of being a nucleus. Nobody leaves. We're all in this together. But because of the way it's written in the Torah, as you heard, let them go home, that's code, that's in translation, that's code for you are commended to. It's like you don't have a choice. There is the Torah supersedes whatever individuals might think of you if you leave, because you are commended to do that. You don't have. It's not your choice. You're betrothed. You have to go home. You're just building a home. You have to go home. You are tending your field. You have to go home. It's not a choice. So there is no stigma attached to the one who comes home. You're afraid? There is no stigma. This is the law. The rule is you go home. It's understood. It's accounted for. So you're not shamed, which is also kind of different. It's unique.